people realize I'm getting too old for it.
Wow. Call me impressed, Mike, but I don't know if I could have done that.
I'll be sore tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull the cover off. Even though they said it's working again, I just want to check kind of refrigerant charge and connections, that sort of thing, just to make sure there isn't anything going on with it. But typically when something stops and then starts working again, it's going to happen again. It's just a matter of when. That did not sound very healthy. Inside that compressor. Looks like it's been replaced at some point.
The capacitor's been replaced?
Yeah, it's definitely not the original, but this equipment is really old. Contactor's definitely charred and pitted. I'm just going to take a picture and show the homeowner.
You said contactor is charred?
Yeah, the contactor is basically like a light switch for the system. Basically power goes to it and it tells the fan motor and the compressor to come on. But typically, you know, every time it starts up and shuts off, then it arcs. It gets to the point where it either welds those contacts shut where the air conditioner will stay on and never shut off, or it makes it where it can't make contact like it's supposed to and the air conditioner will never come on. This is getting pretty bad. You can see that it's really dark and charred and pitted on that, so it's definitely something to bring up to the customer. And sometimes that'll make things to where, like I said, if it doesn't make contact like it's supposed to, can, like he said, make it short cycle where it's not making good contact, which is a possibility as well. Other than that, I mean, it looks like it could use a little bit of maintenance, or inside of the electrical department hasn't been cleaned in a while. Outside coil looks like it could use some maintenance as well. I'm gonna put things back together, try to start things back up and check refrigerant charge, just to kind of let him know what's going on. And then I'll step inside and being that the system's old like it is, I'll get numbers off the furnace inside and do a quick safety inspection, knowing what I know about this brand and the age of it. I'll do a quick safety inspection of that furnace because they're notorious for having issues.
Okay.
Something just sounds funky inside that compressor. You know, when you've done it for a while like I have, you get to know typical sounds of things and what things should sound like. It doesn't sound normal when it shuts off and when it starts up. Kind of an odd noise, but it's pinpointed to the compressor because that's the noise that I'm hearing, and you know what a compressor sounds like. Just the noise is off. It's just not the typical sound. It could also be due to the age. This thing is 30 years old, 1993. I had a system this year that had been chugging along and was 43 years old, and just replaced it this year. But been going out to this customer's house for many years, and finally it was time. It was time. Let's see what the LRA is on this thing. So rated for 62.5 and running at 73.6. So compressor heart of the system has what's called LRA, lock rotor amps. Doesn't want it exceeding that number. If it does, it runs that potential of locking up that heart of the system. Sometimes if it gets locked up, you get it going again. Sometimes you cannot, but when it starts running over that maximum LRA, we recommend what's called a hard start kit, which is kind of like a defibrillator for the system. Helps. The hardest part is getting that heart of the system going, and it just helps get that system going easier. Like I said, once it's locked up, sometimes you can get it going again, sometimes you cannot. But that hard start kit just helps prolong the life of things and start things easier. But yeah, they're kind of running over that maximum. Got a few things going on, but it is a 30-year-old system, so it's, you know, gonna happen. You know, parts are gonna start failing, unfortunately. Believe it or not, when I first started in this industry, the same style unit, this unit's a little bit unique. It has what's called king valves on this thing. Basically, you put your refrigerant gauges on this style of system, and then you have to open up a valve. Well, I didn't realize that it doesn't have Schraders in it, and you have to open up that valve. So come to find out, all I had to do was open up that valve, and it wasn't actually low on refrigerant. So I always remember this style unit because that was one of those first mistakes I ever made, and I'll remember it.
So to you, it looked like, wow, you are just out of refrigerant.
You have lost all your refrigerant.
None. Yeah.
Well, and the problem was that was the time where the whole thing with the locking caps, because people were stealing refrigerant. So I was like, oh, so maybe someone stole all the refrigerant out of this thing.
Yeah.
Nope, it was just you have to open up a king valve. Yeah, you got to put your gauges on and then open up the line to release that pressure to see what your refrigerant levels are.
How happy were you the next time you ran into that you were like,
I was like, I've got this. I know what I'm doing on this one.
Let me just save myself.
But sometimes that's what it takes, you know, making a mistake, you learn from your mistakes. And
it's called experience, Mike.
Yep. Pretty typical of a day like today. You know, not too terribly warm out, but as the day goes, this thing will climb. So you're staying above that freezing point. It's an old R22 refrigerant, so I'd say you're probably fine on your refrigerant charge.
Okay.
Is the furnace just as old?
Yeah.
You can already tell by touching? Yep. How can you tell?
Stick your finger in there. If you stick your finger in there and feel right here on the right hand side, there's a dimple on these things.
Okay.
And this furnace is notorious for cracking around that dimple. The hottest part of the furnace is right there where those burners go in, and that dimple, every time this furnace comes on and shuts off, it expands and contracts. And then it eventually, it's like bending a paperclip back and forth. Eventually the heat and the bending back and forth breaks. So that's essentially what it's doing. But yeah, this is notorious for doing it, and I can just reach my fingers in the limit hole typically and feel the actual crack where it's cracked. This furnace is unsafe to operate.
Yeah.
When you find something like this, American Gas Association states that we have to shut off the gas to the furnace till either this heat exchanger is replaced or the furnace itself is replaced. The unique thing about this furnace is it's not like your typical heat exchanger cell. Typically all your heat exchanger cells are combined together. With this style of furnace, each of them have separate cells. So if a customer decides they just want to replace the heat exchanger, then while they're in there, they're not just going to want to replace the one that's cracked, they're going to want to replace all of them. So in the long run, it costs you more money to do all of them. So most people, when it comes to a crack in the heat exchanger, when it's this age, then they usually replace the furnace. But if you want to look over my shoulder, you could probably see just with my mirror. But yeah, there's definitely a crack right there.
Okay.
Yeah, I can feel it. The other side, not so much, but well, actually there is kind of a lip on this. I mean, I don't know that there's separation on this one yet, but you could definitely feel something there. But yeah, you definitely feel the separation in the metal on the one on the right. So,
and this is, you've just run into this brand, this type of furnace before?
Just seeing something year after year, just know where certain brands have issues. But just to confirm that there are more and see how many more are in this thing, I'm going to take things apart real quick and just climb inside this thing and do a safety inspection that way as well.
Right, okay.
But then after I do this, then I'm going to want to show the homeowner.
What's that box thing?
Basically, this is an old circuit board. It's behind this compartment here. I'm just going to kind of zip tie things up so that it stays up out of my way while I'm climbing into things. Now I'm definitely getting too old to do this. So there's a total of 7 cracks in this heat exchanger. There's at least one in every single cell. Multiple cracks in this thing, unfortunately. I'm gonna go get my camera. I mean, even though, you know, he's starting a club membership, that means I'm still gonna do what I he wants me to do is kind of clean things up, check things out. I'll change the filter, that sort of thing. He's on a call, so it's kind of hard. But either way, if he starts a club membership, he's going to get a discounted rate on system replacement. So it's really a no-brainer if he's going to use us. So I'm gonna go get my camera just so I could show him once that time comes as well.
It's a shame because if they've only been here for 2 years, you know that furnace probably was like
it was that. It's been that way for years. Probably.
Yeah.
But the problem is you don't see. That's why we pull things out and do a safety inspection on things, because no matter what company, he said that he had a safety inspection done last year on this thing, and it clearly was not done, unfortunately, or they would have noticed that this thing is unsafe to operate. And when that happens, then that the potential, you know, I'm not saying carbon monoxide is in the home, but when there's cracks or holes in the heat exchanger like this, the potential of carbon monoxide making in the home is so great. That's why American Gas Association states that we're supposed to shut things off. So I'm gonna go get my camera, I've got my filter, that sort of thing, and I'll be back in. I'm gonna still do what he wanted me to do.
Yeah.
They are very, very nice people.
Yeah.
Hopefully my battery's charged. It'll start up.
Is this that automotive camera that Jordan was recommending? Ah, you like it?
Yeah, I think I think a half a dozen of us probably have this camera or so. There's different ones out there, but this one's nice, compact. It's not like the massive things that we used to have to carry around in our trucks.
Yeah.
But this is pretty nice now. This one's not as bad as some of them, but I'm gonna see if it shows. Let's see if I can get it to pull up.
Is that one right there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a big crack right there.
There's a couple that are probably worse than that one, but that one's pretty bad. Jeez, just
What?
like that, I found one.
Where's, oh, up on the left side there. Yep.
This is a different cell,
Yeah, on the right.
and on the left,
Oh, yeah.
but the same exact spot on every one of them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if there's one crack or if there's 10, and it's unsafe to operate.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of clean things up and clean safeties, that sort of thing, because that's what I came here to do. Basically, I'm just going to put things back together with limit-wise, clean things up, and then... This has flexible gas piping going through the furnace cabinet. So you see this main gas pipe coming in, that's your black pipe. It's against code to actually have your flexible gas piping going through the furnace cabinet, because what can happen, and the first time that I've seen it in the industry happened actually last year, and we just kind of lucked out that Jordan was there to do the maintenance and noticed it. But this flexible gas piping going through here, what can happen is if for some reason this blower gets off balance and the furnace starts to shake, it could sever this gas line. When it severs that gas line, what do you get? Gas leaking into the home. Even worst case scenario, cause a fire or an explosion. So that's definitely something that needs to be addressed and is not safe. When we do an install, we run black piping through the furnace cabinet no matter what. It's fine to have your flexible gas piping once it's in the actual furnace cabinet, but it can't be going through the furnace cabinet itself.
I see. So what did Jordan find?
So he was out on a maintenance and just happened to move the gas line and can see the slit in the actual.
Oh,
so
he found it was
he found
damaged
it before the furnace had actually started up, because if it could ignite that gas. But luckily he found it. But that's the first time I've seen it in the industry. But it can happen. It essentially saved the house from either an explosion or a fire.
Yeah, that flexible line, that kind of accordion looking stuff going through the furnace is bad news.
Yep.
If it's just inside,
then it's fine.
But not going through the furnace.
When it's going through the furnace cabinet, it's not up to code.
Okay.
This here's just your flame sensor. Basically, every appointment we do, if you're a club member, we're looking at the system as a whole. So next appointment would be about 6 months out, which means that they would have already started up their furnace. And so what I'm doing the safety inspection, but I'm also cleaning sensors and stuff that are more likely to cause an issue, you know, when things are started up October, November, December, because it will be about 6 months before we're back out. So we try to look at the system as a whole. So we're looking at the AC and the furnace on each visit when we're out
Both
twice a year.
times, yeah.
And while I'm waiting for him to get out of his call, go out and wash the coil and stuff.
What are you checking there?
I'm checking the blower capacitor. So blower capacitor or motor starter. It's essentially like a battery, helps start that motor and make that motor run. When it gets low, then the manufacturer recommends replacement typically after it gets 5% low or 6%. We as an industry recommend once it gets to 10% low, that's when you replace it. I'm just making sure that it's within the design specifications, because if it's not, then it's making that motor work harder, in turn can make that motor fail faster than it's supposed to. It never fails. You never can see what size it is. You have to take things apart.
To make sure that the capacitor is not failing, that could save your motor.
Exactly.
If you stay on top of the
Yep.
capacitor.
Yep.
Okay.
Less wear and tear on that motor. It's not working as hard when the battery's essentially charged like it's supposed to be.
Right. Oh, wow.
This here is your blower well. It actually is what scoops the air and delivers it throughout the house. When it starts getting built up like that, then it takes away from the efficiency, makes that motor work harder. 1/16 of an inch of dirt on that blower well will reduce the efficiency up to 25% of furnace and air conditioning season.
Because that blower is being used for both.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anytime the furnace or AC is on, or even just the fan only, it's being used. While I'm waiting, I'm going to go out and wash the coil.